Welcome to Mobius Tricks. This is one of my favourite activities to introduce people to mathematical ideas that they might not normally think about. You can do it with pretty much any age as long as they're old enough to use scissors without danger. So we're going to start off by going over what you actually need, which isn't very much. So the most important thing you're going to need is strips of paper. They need to be quite wide and quite long. So what I do is I cut an A3 sheet into 5 long strips. Now, as any stationery nerd knows, A3 is only 297 millimeters wide, which doesn't divide nicely into 5, but you don't have to be very accurate about the strip width. So you can do 6 centimeters and then you'll have one that's just a little bit less wide than that. And that works fine. You'll also need some sort of tape. I like masking tape because you can put pen over the top of it and still see the pen. And you will also need pens and scissors for everybody. Just one pen, one pair of scissors. And that's it. You need 2 strips per person if everything goes right, plus 1 extra for you. If it doesn't go right, then, well, it's handy to have some spares. So the next thing you need to do is introduce some ideas. I usually make it more interactive, but just to give you an idea. So what we have here is a very long, thin rectangle. As you can see, it's got a top and a bottom edge and 2 side edges. It's got 4 edges altogether. It's also got 4 corners. Because this is actually a 3D thing rather than something drawn on paper, it's also got 2 surfaces or 2 faces. It's got a front side here, which you can see, and then a back side here, which you can't. And there you are. It looks pretty much the same at the moment. Now, how can you tell what's a different surface? Well, if you can draw a line on it, doesn't matter if it's squiggly or straight, but we're going to use straight for reasons that you'll see later. If you could draw a line on it without going across a corner or an edge, you're still on the same face. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to draw a line just down the middle of this strip. Doesn't have to be too neat, but I'm going to try and stick to the middle as best I can. So now you can see the difference. You've got a side with a line on it and a side without a line on it, or in fact, because it shows through a bit, you've got a side with a very solid line and a side with a faint line. Great. Not very interesting so far. That's okay. We're going to now get rid of one of the edges. This is how you do that. You make a little loop. Classic loop here. I've got some tape. I'm going to get you to do something similar to this soon, but I'm not going to bother with this one because this one's really simple and really too easy for you. So there we go. I've just taped that into a loop. So now you can still see you've got 2 faces. Rather than having a front face and a back face, you've got an outside face and an inside face. But it's still 2 faces. What about corners? All the corners have disappeared. And edges? Well, I've got 2 edges, but they're curved now. That doesn't matter, as long as they don't kind of go like that, or like that. They're still edges, they're just curved edges. So I've now got rid of all the corners and half the edges. Okay, what do you think is going to happen if I cut this in half? Cut down that line. Hopefully somebody will give a suggestion at this point. Yeah, so we're going to get some thinner loops, aren't we? So I'm going to just bend that over so I can make it cut to start with. And then I'm going to cut along the line. See what comes up. didn't match up the line very well. That's just my drawing. Yep, you're quite right. I've got 2 thin loops. And at this point, I'm going to have to get another strip. So I've got another strip now, and I want you all to take a strip, and we're going to make a loop, but we're going to do something very slightly different. I'll come and help you tape it. Make sure you're doing it right, because it's a bit tricky. So we go as if we're going to make a loop like we did before, but then we make the smallest possible twist. It's called a half twist before we tape it. And you need to tape this very well, if I can find the end of the tape, so that when you cut across it, it doesn't all fall apart. So I'm going to wrap a tape round a bit. I'm using a bit of a longer bit of tape here. Oh, not quite long enough. That's typically how it goes. So I'll do that and wrap it around the end. So as you see, you've got a slightly odd shape now. So how many faces and edges do you think this has got? Obviously it's got no corners still. Do you think it's still got 2? That's one way to find out. We're going to draw a line down the middle. So I'm going to start from the tape, and I'm going to go keep going. I'm going to do this quite slowly so that people will finish before me. At least some people will. And I get halfway, I get around like this, back to the tape, and oh, I'm now heading onto the blank side, or the faint pen side, depending on what you want to call it. So I'm not got back to where I was before, so I'm going to keep going. And it takes a while. Because I haven't got over an edge. I've just carried on going until I get back to where I started. And I didn't go over any edges. There aren't any corners to go over anyway. So, there's an odd thing about this. I haven't got a pen covered side, the plain side. It looks like both sides have got pen on. So, they're not both sides. It's only got one side, only got one surface. Which is a very weird thing. If you actually follow your finger around, you'll find it's only got one edge as well. So that is really weird. Now, I've just grabbed the scissors. What happens if we cut down it? Let's all cut down it and see. What do you think is going to happen? Let's have some suggestions. Again, I'm going to pinch it just so I can get it started. And then I'm going to start cutting along here until I get to the end. This is why I have to tape it well, because otherwise it would come apart at this point. That often happens. I'm nearly there. And what have I got? I'm going to get my 2 loops. Oh. Oops. I didn't get 2 loops. I got one very twisty one. It's got way more twists than the one I just cut it from. So, oh dear me. That's a bit strange, isn't it? Let's try something different. Okay. Make another one. I'll get my tape ready. And this one, I'm going to wrap around both sides because it's going to be even weirder. So we're going to do the same. Make a loop and then do the smallest possible twist, a half twist. And then we'll tape it down like this. And I'll come around and help you if needs be. And we're going to draw another line. This time, we're not going to draw it down the middle. We're going to draw it about 1/3 of the way across. It doesn't matter being accurate, doesn't matter being exactly a third of the way across, but don't go more than halfway. Don't stray across the middle. So I'm going to start here, and I'm going to start drawing. Boom, 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 boom. And do you think the same thing's going to happen? It's still going to have one edge, isn't it? And one face, one side. Boom, boom, boom. I've got here, oh, it doesn't even match up with the back of the line this time. I'll keep going, see what happens. So I'm kind of on my second go round already. And I can see that I'm going to have more to do. Oh, actually, that's weird. I can see a faint one there and a strong one there. Does that mean I've got one side, or one face, or two? Well, I haven't taken my pen off, so it must all be one face, but it looks a bit different this time. Let's see what happens when we cut it. Any ideas? We're going to have a really big one with even more loops. Who knows? Let's see. Now, very, very important when cutting, do not stray across the middle, because that will make it go wrong. We do have some spares if you do make a mistake. It's fine. I nearly always get people making mistakes, so don't worry if you do. Perfectly human thing to do, but try not to stray across the middle. So I'm going to go bum, bum, bum. Oh, you see, there we go. That got round, but it hasn't matched up. So now I'm kind of cutting down the middle of the strip that's like not the whole strip. So I'm going to keep going and keep going. How are you doing? Nearly done? And I'm going to keep going, making sure most other people finish before me. And then I'm going to do that. And we have, here's one of our original ones, a Mobius strip, it's called. That's the name for it. And twirly one, but they're combined. There you go, that's a necklace to take away. And that's my Mobius tricks.